is one more, just like Fukushima is, one more globalist engineered population reduction program, which is a fancy way to say mass murder.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and we're looking for
this is the nightmare. Okay, let's go through a couple things. We have Ebola now in Australia.
Right.
Hospitalized with symptoms of the disease in Australia,
right.
In Prague, in the Czech Republic, in the center of Europe. A businessman has been hospitalized. But the real breaking news is a doctor, let me find her name here, Rima Lebro of the USAMRIID, that's the United States Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, and it's a subordinate lab of the U.S. Army Medical Research and Material Command. It's at Fort Derrick. This is the U.S. BioWar people, okay? She says that evidence suggests that the NBC cameraman contacted Evo via airborne exposure, as did the Spanish nurse. She says that Ebola is not only airborne, but it is weaponized, which is what you and I have been saying.
Yeah, well, here's the consequences to this. And I was watching, I think it was John Chancellor, one of the NBC programs on YouTube this morning before the show. And he asked this doctor who was brought on the program, the doctor was trying to skirt around and make comedy out of it, which really is not an appropriate thing for a scientist or physician to do, make comedy out of something this horrible. And he asked him, what about in the worst case scenario? He said, what about if it gets out of control? What does that mean? What could happen? It is out of control. Now, you have to look at it. When we talked about this yesterday, we had Ted Brower call in. He's done his research. I've done mine. The reason why we have troops in Sierra Leone is to control the diamond mines, the gold mines, etc. It's to control the regime we put in place to control the flow of capital to the Rothschild banks and the people that own the diamond mines. It's not to help the people. There's a very small number of health professionals. There's actually more proportionally health professionals coming from Cuba than there is from the United States. Okay, so let's just get this straight. The second thing is, CDC has a patent on Ebola, which means that patent indicates that they've genetically modified it. The laboratory that was there that shut down now was supported by the World Health Organization, the United Nations. Yeah, exactly.
20 separate patents on Ebola.
Right, but here's the thing: is they have a laboratory supported, shut down now by the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and funded for by George Soros and Bill and Melinda Gates. Come on, these are the same players, okay? So when you look at all this together, and here's what's happening. I got an email this morning from one of my contacts who emails me virtually every week. Margaret, she's a nurse that works in the emergency department in Australia. And what she said to me was very shocking. She's a tough nurse, seen everything, car accidents, people blown to pieces, people dying. She said if the Ebola thing, and this lady up in northern Australian Cairns, if this Ebola thing gets confirmed and she dies, she's going to quit nursing. So it means there's a lot of health professionals in first world countries. They're just going to say, you know, I think I'm going to self-quarantine at home.
This is a hidden problem that people in the know are scared very much of. It's already happened in Liberia. Almost every doctor and nurse has walked because they realize that they don't have the equipment to protect themselves, and they're going to die if they stay there.
What they're starting to realize, and they don't want to say this, is that their training is inadequate.
And their equipment is inadequate. Look, when you have the 3 or 4 viral particles can cause a terminal infection in you, and you've got goggles and or mask on, a suit that may be permeable by fluids, and you've got 2 suits on, and you've got 2 sets of gloves. Sorry, Charlie, that won't get it. You better have a biohazard level 4 positive pressure suit on that's designed for working in a containment area with the most deadly diseases possible, because this is one of them. This is a highly tweaked
I got a question for you.
About virus, and it's the kind of virus that the people that work in biological warfare are scared. I can't say it on air, but are scared, well scared of this because they know this is a doomsday weapon. This is nuts, and everybody that works in the field knows it's nuts.
Yeah, in fact, this is in many ways much worse than the swine flu, the avian flu, poliomyelitis, anything else that's ever shown in history. This is the Red Death. And what people should understand...
That's why I call it the Red Death. I'm a historian. I know what the Black Death, bubonic plague, did in the Middle Ages. It killed between a third and a half of the people of Europe.
This is my medical prediction, and this is based on facts. When the CDC comes out and says in the World Health Organization there'll be 1.5 million cases in Africa, that's a 71% case fatality, so 1 million dead. In 1 year, that will increase 100-fold, so it'll be 100 million dead by the January 2016. The number of hot cases arriving in North America from other countries, including going to countries that have inadequate medical care, Central America, South America, mass migration into the United States illegally will be horrendous because people will be running away from it.
The Marine Corps general who is in charge of the United States Central Command, that's Central America and so forth, he said about 1 or 2 days ago that if it gets loose in Central America, there's an enormous flood of people desperate to get across the American border.
Right, exactly. And I predict the same thing. My guess is that sometime in 2015 or 2016, as we head toward the elections, that we will have a state of medical martial law in America. And this is what Obama wants. This is what the globalists want. They want to have tagging and tracking of every single individual in the country. They want to have forced vaccines or treatments or quarantine centers. They don't have adequate facilities because you have to quarantine each individual in a separate room. You can't mass quarantine them in a facility. You have to have separate air systems. They don't have the health professionals even trained to do this. The average doctor is an ophthalmologist.
Let me ask you this, because you're a physician and you've been in lots of doctors' offices and waiting rooms and ER rooms and so forth.
I've done much more than the average doctor.
How many doctors' offices have you been in that there's not only a HEPA filter in the waiting room and in every exam room, but a UV light filter that is sterilizing the air?
None. Let me explain what I did. Before I went into medicine, in 1973, I was working on my PhD in marine bacteriology and genetics. I finished the project in 5 months by sleeping on the lab room floor because I'm a bit of a nerd. And I just had to write the thesis and I'd have it completed. My director, Dr. Robert Brown, trained at Bethesda and was a bioweaponeer working on the T-virus project on the Rutgers campus in a secret facility. Virus got out of containment. It locked down everybody because he was sick that day and incinerated all his colleagues at 2,000 degrees and all of the material inside it. But they had a biohazard 4 facility and pressure. I know a lot about biohazards. I work with the federal government on Operation Top Off and Dark Winter, and I can tell you straight up, this is right out of hell. This is not going to be contained by the current policies. I gave 12 points.
It's out of control.
I could contain it tomorrow if they follow my recommendations, but they're not going to do it.
You may have heard about...
Welcome back, and Tim, you know, a lot of people think we're just kind of fear-mongering. I remember getting an email recently when I sent out a newsletter, and the lady, I'm going to use her first name. Her name was Holly. And she said, I don't like capital letters because it's like you're screaming at me and you're I was exaggerating the circumstances. I'm thinking, no, I put the title of it in caps so you know it's a title. What people need to understand is we don't exaggerate. If anything, we're trying to take a level-headed view on something that's really pretty out of control. One of the I saw a video clip this morning when I was doing my research about one of the senior NBC news staff that was going to be speaking there. And what was his name? Captain, whatever his name, such and such. And when he had open mic was there, and you say, you know, we're screwed. The fact is,
that's right.
When we're
White House press conference, and
right, exactly.
He wasn't speaking. He didn't know the mic was on.
No, it was an open mic, and he was there talking to another
reporter. Comment, and basically, oh, we're screwed.
Right,
you know,
right.
Yeah,
And these are, by the way, from, but these are intelligent.
And I've been a consultant to aerospace design bureaus on theoretical weaponry strategy and design. I've kept myself plugged in to this, and one of the things that has scared me the most in the last 30 years has been this rise of genetic engineering, because I saw directly how it would fit in with BioWar. Nuke. It was perfect for false flags. It's just an absolute nightmare from hell. And of course, it's strictly out of the Bible. If you look at what the Bible says in the final battle, a third will die of plague. Well, what's plague? You know? And a third will die of wormwood. If you translate wormwood, it means Chernobyl. That means a third will die from Fukushima and from atomic warfare, from radiation. And this is lining up. Now, whether it happens today or 7 or 8 years from now, but this is lining up. And it's really amazing that, I mean, okay, one example. We're sending 3,000 troops to Africa. Now,
it's up to 4,000 now. It's up to 4,000 now, Tim.
But those 3,000 troops, we're not sending them there with level 4 biohazard positive pressure suits. We're sending them there with the kind of stuff that the nurses in Spain have already proven to us are completely ineffective. And these people are going to be living in tents in a hot zone. I mean, they're not, even if they had bio level 4 suits, which they don't, still be, you know, I mean, you don't wear that 24/7. You can't sleep in it. You can't eat in it. You can't go to the bathroom in it.
Plus, they're going to be in contact with people that are going to be exposed or shedding virus if they're not sick yet. We don't know all the details. We don't know how long you shed virus that can infect other people before you yourself get sick. And then,
how many, you know, when people like you and I look at this, we're scared. The reason we're scared is we know that to say, uh-oh.
Well, the military just did the largest we call hazardous bioweapons test at any military naval facility in American history just in the last couple of days. I think it's on the East Coast. So what people should start understanding is the government's telling us one thing on one hand, and on the other hand, they're telling all the morticians don't embalm any bodies of people you suspect. What do you mean by the word suspect? They got 5 airports where they're going to measure temperature. How useless that is was proven in 2009 with H1N1, was proven in not only in airports like in Germany and Europe.
When the government does something like that, it's just in your face. We don't care. We think you're stupid and we're going to kill you and we're lying to you. That just irritates the living hell out of me, because that's worse than worthless, because it's telling people, oh, you're safe, this person's safe, everybody's safe, have a nice day. No, they're not safe. You don't know that. Hell, you can't even do the blood test.
They know otherwise.
Already showing symptoms sometimes 3 days later. And
last week,
the blood test for a virus that is constantly mutating.
I think it was last Thursday.
Any virus we've ever had experience with.
Last week, I think it was Thursday, a doctor from Missouri who's also infectious disease and an emergency trauma doctor went through Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta in a biohazard suit to prove to them that, hey, will you give me security clearance? Let me walk through here with my mask on and my full Tyvek suit. And they did. And, of course, everybody there is in shock. Now, all these TSA workers, they need you know what I did, of course, being a bad guy, because I am. I like to ask questions and make people's hair stand up on its end. I walked through the LAX last year when I was heading up, flying somewhere, and I said, well, I was flying up to Portland. And they said, well, I said, well, you know, walk through the machine. They said, it's fine, it's all safe. I said, no, I'm an environmental medicine doctor. This scrambles your DNA and causes cancer and cataracts and so on. And I said, oh, no, it's safe. I said, you're talking to a world-class expert. This is not safe. Oh, by the way, do you have a radiation detector, you know, chip on your uniform to tell you how much radiation you're exposed to? Because it can give you cancer. And they all started getting, you could tell how big and wide-eyed they got, like, oh. And I said, by the way, I'm here, and I started doing a dance. I said, I'm ready for a pat-down, because I'm not going through that machine. So I said, And I started, after I did the dance, I said, no, Doc, you're not getting a pat down, just walk through. I went through the metal detector, right? Damn it, this guy, we got to get him out of here, man. He's causing a crisis. You made it with Ebola. I'd walk through there and I'd say,